हेलो फ्रेंड्स, केजी क्लासेस में आपका स्वागत है। आज हम आपको चार्ल्स लैम्स के जीवन परिचय के बारे में बताएंगे। लाइफ ऑफ चार्ल्स लैम्स 1775 टू 1834। चार्ल्स लैम, द सेवेंथ एंड द यंगेस्ट चाइल्ड ऑफ हिज पेरेंट्स, was born on 10th February 1775 in London. His father John Lamb was a confidential clerk to Samuel Salt, a venture of the Inner Temple. His mother was Elizabeth Field, a daughter of the old lady who acted as a housekeeper at Blackswan in Hertfordshire, the country seat of the housekeeper at Blackswan in Hertfordshire, the country seat of the Plummer family. Repeat हो गया. Lamb's education began in the neighborhood under the care of one Mr. William Bird, but later under the influence of Salt, he was sent to Christ Hospital, where he remained from 1782 to 1789, and where he formed a lifelong friendship with St. Coleridge. Lamb was a nervous and timid child, while others were all fire and play. He stole along with all the self-consciousness of a monk. One of his school fellows gives an account of his personality: an amiable, gentle boy, very sensible and keenly observing, indulged by his school fellows and by his master on account of his infirmities of speech. His countenance was mild, his complexion clear brown, with an expression which might lead you to think he was of Jewish descent. His eyes were not both of the same color. One was hazel and other had specks of grey in the iris, mingled as we see in the red spots of the bloodstone. His step was plantigrade, which made his walk slow and peculiar. Adding to the staid appearance of his figure, I never heard his name mentioned without the addition of Charles, although as there was no other boy of the name of Lamb. The addition was unnecessary, but there was an implied kindness in it, and it was a proof that his gentle manners excited that kindness. On account of his ordinary academic achievements and infirmity of speech, Lamb could not pursue his studies further. In 1792, he was appointed to a clerkship in the India Office, Leadenhall Estate, which he held for 33 years, and one of his jokes was that his real works were to be found on the shelves of the East India Company. The maximum pay that ever he received in his life was 700 years. Unfortunately, Lamb's father developed dementia and his mother became an invalid. In September 1796, his sister Mary Lamb stabbed her mother to death and wounded her father with a knife in a fit of insanity. She was tried but acquitted on the assurance from Lamb that he would take care of her. Lamb devoted his life to her, broke off his marriage. Strangely enough, Lamb was now where in his writing mentioned this tragic incident. He remained a bachelor all his life for the sake of his sister, whom he did not like to keep in the asylum. The history of the long association between mother brother and sister, broken from time to time by a fresh attack of the fatal malady, is one of the most touching things in fact or fiction. Lamb had begun to study in the Elizabethan dramatists who had begun to exert their influence upon the literary world of the time. He also came in touch with the leading literary luminaries like Wordsworth, Southey, Dyer, and others. He, however, earned the wrath of the anti-Jacobean because of his association with Wordsworth, Coleridge, and Southey. In 1800, he shifted to Chapel Street with Mary. Coleridge introduced him to the editor of the Morning Post in 1801. He wrote a tragedy, John Woodville, which was rejected by the manager of the Drury Lane Theatre. The remarkable feature of the play is the successful way in which Lamb had caught the manner and spirit of the Elizabethan writers. The last few years of his life were spent in peace and contentment. He was now free from financial strains. He had also earned a reputation as a writer and critic. His residence at Russell Street in Covent Garden enabled him to come into contact with such great personalities as Munden, Macready, Ayrton, Miss Kelly, Miss Burrell Elliston, and Charles Ollier because of the widening circle of his friends. Lamb had to change his residence to Dalston. In 1823, Lamb left London and took a cottage at Islington. Here he adopted Emma Isola, a young orphan whose presence brightened the lives of brother and sister until her marriage in 1833 to Moxon, the publisher. In 1825, he had retired from the Indian House with a pension. I came home forever on Tuesday week. In 1826, he took lodging at Enfield, and in 1833 he made the last move to Edmonton. Now his health had begun to deteriorate. His sister's attack also became more frequent and of longer duration. During one of his walks, he fell, slightly hurting his face, but it resulted in a disease, erysipelas, which could not be cured. He died in December 1834. Second, works of Charles Lamb. Apart from essay, Lamb tried his hand at poetry, drama, and criticism as well. His works may therefore be seen under the following heads. First, poetry. At his early stage, Lamb tried his hand at poetry. As early as 1798, he published Old Familiar Faces, depicting the agony of a tortured soul, written in free verse. In 1803 appeared a lyrical ballad, Hester, sweet in portraiture, controlled in emotion, but pedestrian in gait. Among his other poetical works are Prince Doris, a verse story of unrequited love on an infant dying as soon as born, and she is going about Lamb's poetical genius. Saintbury remarks, Lamb's poems have occasionally an exquisite pathos and more frequently a pleasant humor, but they would not be by themselves justify a very high estimate of him. But Sampson considers his verse quite uninteresting even when pleasing. Second essay. Lamb's essay appeared in the London magazine under the pen name of Ilya. He began to write essay in 1820. The first volume of his essay was published in 1823 by Taylor and Hasse under the title Ilya. About these essays, Southey remarked in the Quarterly Review as wanting only a sounder religious feeling to be as delightful as they are original. The second volume, entitled The Last Essays of Ilya, was published in 1833 by Moxon. Lamb's essays, limited in number though they are, exhibit infinite variety. Here is God's plenty. They range from the vision of beautiful children that never burst to the drollery consequent upon old George Dyer's tumbling into the new river's tenuous trickle, from nonsensical rebellion against Beethoven, back Mozart to the contemplation of true and false painting. Their autobiographical animation is sustained from child Ilya's small and magic world of temple, sundials and fountains to the man's superannuation from his daily work of the year on year and his sense of a dark companionship already beckoning him away from her dear earth. It is on account of the popularity of his essays that Lamb has been given the title of the Prince of the Essayist. Third dramatic work. In 1801, Lamb wrote a tragedy, John Vaudeville, which proved a failure as a drama and did not add to his fame as a writer. The remarkable feature in it is the successful way in which Lamb caught the manner of the Elizabethans. Southey described the play as a delightful poetry, badly put together, an exquisite picture in a clumsy frame. In 1806 was published another play, Mr. H. or Bevier, a bad name of which the subject was not substantial enough. The pawnbroker's daughter, a dramatic piece in prose, and the wife's trial, or the intruding widow, a drama in blank verse, are his other dramatic works. Fourth, miscellaneous works. Among his miscellaneous works, the most important of Tales from Shakespeare, a collection of outline talks of 21 dramas of Shakespeare. But the credit of this work goes more to Mary, who wrote 14 comedies, than to Charles Lamb, who did 6 tragedies. Specimens of English dramatic poets also offers an interesting anthology of important scenes of 90 Elizabethan plays. This work gives Lamb's critical insight. In 1798, Lamb published an interesting prose romance entitled A Tale of Rosamund Grey, Adventures of Ulysses, based on Champman's translation of Homer's Odyssey. Is a well-told narrative and was published in 1809. In this very year, he jointly published Mrs. Leicester's School, or the History of Several Young Ladies, related by themselves, a collection of 10 tales for children. Of these, 7 tales were written by Mary. Thanks.